Welcome to Immigration Quicktake. This is Ellie Rutledge Silver with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Yesterday, the Trump administration issued a presidential proclamation which will indefinitely ban travel for impacted foreign nationals from 8 countries. Here to share more is Betsy Lawrence, Director of Government Relations at AILA. Betsy, thanks for joining me. Who is affected by these travel bans?
Thanks, Ellie. So in short, 8 different countries are specifically named in the proclamation with some type of limitation on travel. Those countries are Chad, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen. Now, in terms of restrictions, immigrants, in other words, people who are seeking permanent residence in the United States from all of these countries except Venezuela, are suspended from entering the U.S. Whereas non-immigrants, people who are seeking temporary admission to the United States, are also suspended, but to varying degrees depending on the country. So for example, all non-immigrants from Syria and North Korea are suspended, while only people seeking admission on temporary visitor visas for business or tourism from Chad, Libya, and Yemen are suspended. And at the same time, non-immigrants from Somalia can continue to come to the U.S., but visa applicants must undergo enhanced screening. And then there are some other differences for Venezuela and Iran. I should also note that Sudan, which was impacted by prior versions of the ban, is specifically excluded from the proclamation altogether. So all restrictions on travel for nationals of Sudan have been lifted.
How is this different from the bans issued earlier this year?
So the main difference here is that the prior travel bans were implemented via executive order and were put into place for the purported purpose of protecting the nation, while the various federal agencies undertook a review of information sharing practices between the U.S. and close to 200 foreign nations to determine whether these nations were providing us with enough information to assess whether visa applicants pose a national security or public safety threat to our country. So the prior travel bans were kind of like a temporary restraining order. They were valid for 90 days, and of course they were challenged by various courts, as we know. The presidential proclamation that was issued yesterday comes at the conclusion of that review and names these 8 nations as failing to meet the minimum standards for identity management and information sharing. So as it now stands, the current travel restrictions will remain in place unless and until these countries come into compliance with the baseline requirements. The other big difference is, as I noted earlier, is that the restrictions on travel are different for each nation and are theoretically tailored according to the deficiencies with the baseline criteria, as well as other factors like foreign policy and counterterrorism goals. But in terms of similarities, it is important to note that, like the prior travel bans, there are a number of exemptions, such as for lawful permanent residents and individuals with currently valid visas or travel documents, and there are also waivers available on a case-by-case basis.
What concerns does AILA have?
So it's no secret that President Trump made a campaign promise to, quote, ban Muslims. With that, though the current travel ban applies to non-Muslim majority nations such as Venezuela and North Korea, it is really difficult to get past all of the messaging that labeled these efforts a Muslim ban. In addition, I have to emphasize that the screening and vetting procedures that have long been in place for all visa applicants is extremely thorough and rigorous, and so without specific additional information as to the deficiencies identified with each country, it is really difficult to say whether these restrictions are ultimately necessary. We're certainly concerned that this will have a negative impact on the ability of families to be reunited and of legitimate travelers to conduct business activities and to contribute to our economy through tourism. But needless to say, we will continue to watch the development of this issue very closely, and we will keep AILA members updated.
Thanks, Betsy, for joining me. For the rest of you, please stay tuned for more updates from the American Immigration Lawyers Association.